Just what made you decide to make this move, and how difficult a decision was it to come back?
I think anytime you're having to relocate your family, there's a lot of serious discussions to go into that. We had a wonderful 3 years at the University of Georgia. When Coach Pruitt had called me, my wife and I have always enjoyed Knoxville. It's a place that we could always see ourselves living for a long time. And so when Coach Pruitt called, it was, you never know, but it's one of the few, if only, maybe the only job that I would have considered leaving the spot I was at for. And just after talking to him a lot and getting to know him better, it was a pretty easy decision for me to come back to the place that I've always enjoyed coaching at and living.
Jim, how would you compare yourself as an offensive coordinator now as compared to the last time you were here?
Older. I think that's about it. I don't know. I think that that's a good question. I haven't thought much about it. You try to do as good as you can year in, year out. I don't know that I've always been the guy that likes to be the first one in, last one out, so I like to work hard. I don't think that's ever going to change. Comparing me to then, I think I understand the importance of physicality probably more now than ever before in the Southeastern Conference. The importance of playing physical football gives you an opportunity to be successful. Without that, you don't have it. It's difficult to win it without that quality. So coaching that, it's easy to say it. It's always lip surface, but how do you go out and get it done? That's a difficult task, and trying to teach kids the importance of that. I think I'm better at doing that now than I was before.
So what does the process of learning what you have offensively look like, and how much that happens before you decide to come here?
Zero happens before you try to come here. You understand wherever job you are, there's no perfect coach, there's no perfect program, there's no perfect team, so you know that. You try to get to wherever you're at and start understanding the personalities of the players that you have and their talent level and the philosophy of the head football coach and the way he wants to do things. It's been interesting for me just to watch the existing offense these first 8 practices, just going through and seeing who we are and trying to morph them. Oh, we got this, we got that, we got this, and in my mind, trying to sort out what style of offense that we need to play, all the while learning those key components of physicality and running the ball is still, you got to stay true to those. But learning our players has been a tough thing. And probably, so to answer your question, none before you get here. And after you get here, it's completely, totally, it's all you do. Just try to learn about them.
Did you watch last year's game?
I did a little bit when I first got here. I did it more from just depth, just to see, here's 10 old linemen. I'd watch them all, just write a couple paragraphs on each kid. I like to do that and to see my evaluation on them, and then go on from there.
Jim, you've coached offensive line, tight ends, quarterbacks in the past. Here, you don't really have a position that you're assigned to.
So ain't that great? I can't mess up anything here.
I guess, do you like that CEO kind of role? Is that something that
it's been good for me so far. I tell you what, it's easier to install an offense when you're in this role. So you can go from room to room to room to room to room to make doggone sure everybody has no questions. I'm blessed here because the assistants that coaches put together are fantastic. They're very good. They're seasoned vets. They understand what they're doing, and they're no problem. There's just nuances of the things that I like to do that they're not familiar with, that being able to walk around and help them with that has benefited us, I think.
Is that something that you, for the job you do?
Well, Coach Pruitt and I talked about it. I told him I was, if he wanted to go that direction, any direction he was interested in going, I was fine with. Whether I needed to be in a room coaching a position or not, that wasn't a part of the decision at all.
Coach, what's kind of been like the first 7 or 8 practices with Jarrett, and what have you seen out of him? And then 2, when Coach Pruitt was courting you, did you make sure and point out that you've got a flawless winning percentage as the head coach here?
Oh yeah, well heck, everybody knows that. I mean, my statue, Max has my statue. It's a bobblehead doll of Jim Chaney. No. The quarterbacks, talk about them, they're doing a very good job, I think, picking up the offense and doing a fine job. With the young freshman, he'd never been under center before, so he's having to take snaps. Brian's having to learn to take snaps right now under center. And JT's Shroud, he'll flash once in a while, do some real good stuff. So I'm optimistic about all three of those young men. I think that Jarrett's doing a good job learning his role once again within another system, within another coordinator. He's been through a few of us. And I tell you what's interesting to me about college football, when you take a kid like him who's, what am I, the third or fourth coordinator he's had, is how hard it is for them not to get really calloused and cynical about the game of football and to stay fresh with it and eager to learn and be a sponge, because it's tough sometimes. It's not always a bed of roses out there for the quarterback spot. And kind of when we got here before with Jonathan Crompton, it was kind of, there's some similarities there that are good. They're both good football players, and I think Jarrett's going to have a good season. I think he's playing good football right now, and he's fun to be around.
What you bring that up, because I was going to follow that up, between Nathan Peterman at Pittsburgh, kind of where he had inherited some tough times here before he got there, and then Crompton when y'all came in 09. What similarities do you see in those guys?
Between all three of them, or just? Well, I think none of them like to make mistakes. And the number one maxim that we all live with here, and if you're smart anywhere you coach, is the team that makes the fewest mistakes wins. And it all starts at the quarterback position. And all three of those are capable of understanding a game plan and going out and executing it flawlessly at times. That's what I like about all three of those kids. They have the ability to execute at a high level and play within your system. So that's the common thing that all three of those kids share, in my opinion, and also a hunger to be as good of football players as they can be. Very accepting of coaching.
What's it been like working with Tmartn so far, and what can he do within the offensive staff?
I think the question is what he can't do. T's a bright guy, been around a lot of football, brings a lot of good input in, fantastic recruiter, fun-loving guy. Heck, I'm tickled to death he's here. He's a great sounding board for me. Talk about the passing game all the time with him, and he knows what he's doing. He's an exceptional coach, becoming a very close friend. So I'm enjoying my time with T.
I guess 7 or 8 practices in, now that you have somewhat of an understanding of the personnel that you're working with, who are some of the playmakers that have kind of flashed in your eyes?
Well, I think
thus
that
far?
you look at your strengths of your team right now. I would argue that maybe our experience at the wide receiver core, those kids are out there, they're making plays, they understand things. I'll add a new concept, they've seen it before. You know, we're not reinventing the wheel here. I think those kids out there are the ones that Jawan and Callaway and BJ, you know, they're playing good ball, and the Palmer kid and the Murphy kid made some plays lately at slot. So those kids on the perimeter are doing a nice job. We're moving bodies around a lot in the offensive line to try to find some happiness in there. You know, the Carvin kid, I would say, is doing a better job and doing some good stuff up front. And the tight ends, they're all doing their little thing. But I would argue probably those experience of those senior receivers is something to kind of hang your hat on a little bit right now.
There was a whole lot of turnover in the coordinator ranks in the SEC, even in a year when there weren't any head coaching changes. I'm just wondering, why do you think this league has so much turnover in the coordinator spots each year, and how much do you think your background, having been to a few places in the SEC, how much does it help you as an SEC coordinator?
Well, I think it helps you a lot when you know people. I mean, you people know me. You know, when you go against one another, heck, I have folders on coordinators and Coach Pruitt and playing Kirby and all that stuff. Heck, we all know one another. We know what each other's going to do. As for the coordinators moving and interchanging, I don't know. I think so many people look at football as so much different than their own particular jobs, and I never quite see it that way. You guys don't, people in y'all's profession move and do different things, and we do too. Our job is probably a little more public, a little more profile-ish. But I don't know the answer to that question, why people leave. I know I can answer it for myself personally. It was an opportunity that my wife and I decided we didn't want to pass on.
As a coordinator, you've kind of gotten it done a variety of ways, Jim. Is there something about you, do you think, that allows you to adapt and to kind of reinvent yourself based on what you have to work with?
I don't know. I think when you get older, you figure out that it's about the players. I think you say that when you're young. It's all about the players. I remember when I was fortunate enough to have Drew, you know, you'd always say it's about the players, but down deep you thought I was pretty hot, man. At 32 or 31, I had all the answers. And then he left. golly, that wasn't near smart when he left. And it takes a few of those things to realize it's truly all about the players. When you cross that line, they're going to represent you. 11 guys are going to go out there and represent you. So I think when you get older, and hopefully you would get a little wiser with age, is you look at what you have and you try to put those parts together to have the best chance of executing and scoring enough points to win games. So I would argue that my belief is stronger now as I get older than it's ever been. It's about players, and when you believe that way, you try to get the 11 best out, and that dictates the style of play that you are. Although we always there's things we like to do, but sometimes you can't do.
Jim, what's success for this offense this fall?
What's that?
What's success for this offense this fall?
Doing our part and ensuring victory. I would think that. Statistically, I don't get much into that. I would argue, can my daughter watch our offense and go, Dad, you guys played a clean football game. You didn't have turnovers. You didn't have penalties. You it looked clean. You guys are running on and off the field, and you were in formations. There wasn't nothing silly going on, and a normal football fan could watch our offense and go, boys, they played hard and they executed well, and they look like a pretty solid, well-coached offense. I would say that would make me happy as far as, and doing our part to ensure victory, of course. But statistically, I'm a long way away from that right now. That's part of the process.
Jim, you spoke about physicality, running the ball. Obviously, you had a lot of success doing that at Arkansas and then the last 3 years at Georgia. What's kind of been your early impressions of this tailback room, and kind of do you see it being able to do similar things?
I see it moving that way. I think David's doing a good job, and as a whole, I think Coach Pruitt does a good job of teaching that physicality and giving us the opportunity at practice to teach it. I don't know that kids just are born and raised to run through the wall for you. And sometimes you got to go do that to teach them that they can, and they will be able to do that. I believe that our players understand that. They understand that's a component to being a championship team, is being physical and being able to run the football, and that's what we want to be able to do. And they seem to be buying in. And every practice thus far, I can honestly say I've seen a little more physicality out of our existing players.
In your note-taking that you did when you did some of your brief film study, did you kind of notice some things that said, hey, this is what was holding back this group a year ago, and maybe because statistically these guys were among
I evaluated players. I wasn't. That's Coach Pruitt's job to evaluate systems. I just wrote me some notes on the individual players. As far as going back and watching the games and going, holy moly, I didn't like this, I didn't like that. That's not my role. That's not my job. My job is to get the players and put them in the best position I can within my own system.
To piggyback that, when you went back and watched those offensive linemen individually, have you seen some of those guys take steps this spring with some of the things you thought that they needed to work on?
Certainly I do. I tell you what you find when you watch big linemen, you kind of see their fleas, and then you go to work on their fleas, and you watch them trying to get better and better and better. And it's easy now at the conclusion, what are we, 8 days in? I would argue after the spring game, we'll be able to sit down personally, not we, but myself, Will, everybody that is involved with the offensive line, and really tell them exactly what they've got to go to work on now for the next 4 months. Well, you're not sure initially always, but it's lower body strength, it's lateral movements, it's hand placement, it's overall strength, it's knowledge of the offense. It's whatever that is, but we'll be able to define that cleanly for our kids and let them go to work on it. And I think they will. Our kids have proven they will work.
You've gone up against Coach Pruitt a couple games, I think, at Arkansas and Georgia. What is tough about preparing for his defenses, and kind of how do they put stress on offenses?
They're well coached, and there's not a lot of – you don't watch these good defenses and go, oh, boy, they are completely screwed up there. Let's go do that. It don't happen. You got to know the nuances and the things. You got to know what they hate to do, and go get it and go do the best that you can, and you hope that that's a part of you. The worst thing that can ever happen is what they hate to do, you can't do, and that's never a good thing. And playing against Coach Pruitt and his defenses, what's characteristic of them? They're hard playing, they're tough, they're trying to get the ball off of you all the time, and that's who they are. But once again, you're just defining, once again, a championship-style defense. And it's those components are not unique to anybody. Play good defense and play physical football, you got a chance.
What's it like being back at a school for a second time, and do you feel like, having been here before, do you maybe have a different perspective that's helpful to kind of know what works and what doesn't at Tennessee?
I don't know. With Lane, we skinned the cat this way. With Derek, we did it this way. Now with Coach Pruitt, we're doing it that way. My job as an assistant coach is to do whatever I can within his philosophy. What has been fun here is I've seen a lot of people that are dear to my heart, that it's been fun to smile and see friends again. In a lot of ways, guys, and you guys know this as well as I do in my role, this is my honeymoon period right now between now and the fall. There's going to be a 3rd and 1, and I'm going to make a call, and each one of y'all going to say, what in the hell was that? As will my wife, and we all know that. So this has been fun to get reacquainted with some friends and do things like that, and I'm really enjoying it, to be honest with you. I'm having a lot of fun. Coach Pruitt's been a blast to work with. The staff he's put together on my side of the ball, I couldn't ask for anything better. They're fantastic people and very good coaches. I'm very fortunate.